Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of the Ladies Up podcast. I am absolutely excited today because we have a very special guest all the way from the other side of the globe, Kathryn, who is going to go deep with us today, how we can really incorporate astrology into our life and business to really harness the power of the governing forces of this world, really. So welcome, Kathryn. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. And thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I know it was a little bit of a chaotic start, but the universes aligned so that we could be here today and really go deep and help a lot of women. So really just talk us through how you got to this line of work, to this profession, because it's not really something you go to school and go, I'm going to grow up and help people implement astrology into their life so they can live the best life. So talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I was absolutely interested in astrology in high school. And I also, even just things like I studied classics and I loved learning about the goddesses and you know, all of that is very much linked in with astrology as well. So I think there were some signs early on, but I think that often in life we are pushed to kind of conform into a certain box of what people think is an appropriate line of work or an appropriate thing to study. So it's certainly nothing I ever thought I could have a career with. So I've had like many of us, a very long and winding road. And, you know, I had a whole corporate career before starting my business. And even my business has evolved very much. I started out teaching people how to create online courses and did that for a number of years. But ultimately, I've always been really interested in helping people, particularly women, you know, align with their passions, create their own versions of freedom, and really just understand themselves better. And astrology is an amazing tool to help people do that. I got to a point where I was feeling very burnt out in my business. I felt like something was missing. I was very much in the masculine energy of strategy and training, but something was missing. So I went on a bit of an exploration journey. I studied soul and energy medicine, which then led me into studying astrology again. And as soon as I started studying astrology, I was just like, yeah, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to go deep in. And started creating my astrology business from there.
I love that. And it is such a journey because it isn't something that we're sort of, you know, brought up into unless our parents are very, you know, awoken in this world, as you'd say. But no. And then even if they are woken, then you have to go through a school system that puts you through a box and do all of these other things. And, you know, it is a journey of really releasing the layers. And I guess I started on this journey and I found you because of this beautiful blog post that you'd written around the launching strategy aligned with astrology. And there isn't enough out there. And in our women in business community, something that I've really tapped into over the years, because I was very in my masculine and then, you know, had to surrender and all that jazz. But I started to notice that it would always feel like you were moving through something and you'd overcome something and then you were going back to something. And it was really interesting that life is very secular and it was constantly going through the seasons. And I started to go deep with it and, you know, noticing that the moon controls the tides and we're 60% water. So of course we're going to be affected by everything that's around us. And, you know, every time you feel like you're really going through something deep, you know, with me, it's always like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm going through this. And then I'm like, oh, Pluto's in retrograde. Okay, got it. So talk us through a little bit about, you know, this is obviously hours and hours and, you know, probably lifetimes of knowledge and so many things that you need to learn around it. But just talk us through a little bit about how astrology's really helped you in your life and in your business, and what are some really basic things that people can implement? You know, obviously it is something that you do need to start learning. You know, it's not something that you can just wake up and go, well, I'll just do this breathing exercise or this. Like, it is something that I would highly recommend someone book a call with someone like Kathryn after this episode, because it will change your life. But yeah, talk us through a little bit about how you use it in your life for the most benefits.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I started looking for something else was that, as I said, I was very much in the masculine. I had been through having adrenal fatigue 2 years in a row at exactly the same, I mean, almost to the day, exactly the same time. So I was getting burnt out and exhausted and, you know, running a launch-based business, and it was just like, this is not sustainable. There's no way I'm going to be able to keep this up for any length of time. So it really sent me on a journey to try and find a way. I'm not someone who wants to give up, try and find a way to make it sustainable. And that led me into exploring more of the feminine side of things, and how women can run their businesses in a more feminine way. And that led me into astrology, because astrology is very cyclic. And it, you know, you can look at whether it's just working with the moon cycle, the new and full moon each month, or if it's looking at your life in a broader sense and going, what specific transits am I going through right now, or what specific life cycles am I in? Because around kind of ages 40 to 60, we have a heap of different, what we call, sounds terrible, but midlife crisis transits. There's a lot of big transits that we go through around that age. So a lot of people will be feeling a bit lost, a bit confused because of these big transits that we're going through. So I think for me, it was about learning how to work in a more cyclic and flowing way. It was learning that I didn't and I shouldn't be really switched on all of the time, that I needed to let my business ebb and flow with my own natural ebb and flows. So I think, you know, if people want to get started, one of the best ways is to start working with the new and full moon. And the moon cycle, the moon goes through its cycle approximately every month. And at the new moon, it's a great time for setting intentions. And at the full moon, it's a great time for releasing and surrendering from whatever's happened over the prior 2 weeks. But the thing that often people don't realize is that every new and full moon is in a different zodiac sign. It's going to be activating a different part of your chart. And so if you can learn how to identify those and identify what different cycles are good for different things, and then specifically look at what it's activating in your chart, you can just reach this whole new level of working with the moon cycles and just aligning your life and your business in a really powerful way.
Yeah, I love that you've touched on that. So for people listening, is this around, you know, every single moon cycle will actually trigger something different in a different person based on their natal chart?
Yeah, absolutely. So we all have these beautifully unique natal charts based on time of birth, ideally to the minute, our place of birth, and our date and year of birth. And so we have this map of the sky, basically, where all the planets were at the exact time that we were born. And then every month we have new and full moons, and they will fall in a specific degree and a specific sign. So for example, you know, a full moon might be 15 degrees Aries. And we all have 15 degrees Aries on our astrology chart. So what we can do is we can find 15 degrees Aries in our chart, and we can go, okay, which house is that in? So in astrology, we have 12 houses or 12 kind of parts of our life. So if we can identify what part of our life this new moon or full moon is likely to be activating, then we can work with that. If we can see that there are any other planets that when we were born were close to this area, we can get a sense that, okay, maybe my Pluto is being activated, or my Mercury in communication is being activated. If it's our Chiron, which is our core wound, it might be that we're going to have some healing that needs to be brought up during this moon cycle. So we can start getting really specific about how this moon is likely to be impacting us and how we can work with it. And then of course the zodiac side of the moon's in just adds another layer to the way that it might play out. So a moon in Aries is, you know, might be very, there might be some aggression, there might be some bravery or action taking, you know, it's going to be very different to a moon in Pisces that is all flowy and mystical and creative. So it's just a really cool way to really get specific with what's going on in your life.
And so if it is activating, one of the communication areas, is that looking at, do you sort of go through all the different elements in your life? Like, are you like, is this a way for me to communicate more? Or is this something that, like, there's going to be a lesson around this? Like, how do you navigate that when it comes to yourself?
Yeah, so I kind of look at, so I teach predominantly business astrology, but I can obviously look at it from a perspective of what might this mean in my personal life? What might it mean in my business? I mean, this is going to be starting to get a little bit more complex, but every new moon and full moon has other aspects that are going on in the sky at the time, and that will give us a bit of an indication whether it's likely going to be a more easeful period or a more challenging period. So, but ultimately it's just tuning into your intuition about what do I think this is about? Because I find that normally as soon as I see with each new moon and full moon, whatever it is, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that's about, So, women in particular, we're very intuitive beings. So trust that sense of knowing.
Yeah. And I love this so much. So I'm curious to know how someone like yourself runs their business in alignment with moon cycles, because obviously when we're dealing with, launches could probably be 2-week period or even a 1-week period, but then sometimes in our business we've got seasons, it'll be, well, this is going to take 3 months to launch, or various times. So with you or with your clients, what is the best way to really, in your experience, use astrology with your business? Do you, because you've got the blueprint, really, like, do you go like, well, this is 2021 and this is what's going to happen here, this is what's going to happen there? Like, obviously you're never going to know what's going to fully play out, but you do get a pretty good roadmap, which is ironic that a lot of us aren't using this way of running our businesses when it is so powerful. So what do you sort of do with your clients, or what would be the easiest way to start with something like this?
I will say that astrologers knew that 2020 was going to be a shit show. Like, we just, I'm not allowed to swear. We just knew.
Oh, you can swear.
We could see these aspects coming up, and obviously we didn't know that it was going to be a full-on global pandemic, but we knew that some serious stuff was going to go down. So it is super helpful, and and I'm able to look at for this year and get a sense of what the energy for this year is likely going to be like. So it's super helpful. So the ways I tend to work with clients around this is I have a year ahead reading. And so the year ahead reading is really about helping people understand, as I was talking about before, what major lifetime cycles and transits they're in and how they might navigate those, which part of their chart it's going to be activating. But I also do things like look at, for the whole year, where are the new moon and full moons activating their chart, so we can actually start to pinpoint which periods are going to be good for different initiatives in their business. So often people will come to me and they'll know they want to do a major launch during the year, so they'll be asking me, what time of the year is going to be best for that, or they might want to go and rebrand or get some photos done, so then they'll be asking when is good for that. So I'll basically create a 12-month plan, in a sense, of what things they should be doing at what time, and this typically is based around the moon cycles, but we can also look at some of those longer transits that are going on, and ideal times to harness all sorts of different things, whether it's buying a house or even having children or whatever. We can look at all sorts of things. So year ahead readings are a great way to do that. As I say, I think just starting to work with the new and full moons and planning your year in alignment with which houses are being activated, and then mapping the houses to different types of activities, which is part of what I teach in my programs. That's really helpful. I sit down every month and I look at exactly where Mercury is going to be, where Venus is going to be, where Mars is going to be. They're known as the personal planets, so they're ones that are going to impact us on a much more personal level. They move quickly enough that we can kind of, it's not months and months that they're staying in the same place. So I'll look at that at the start of each month, get a sense of which parts of my chart are being activated by them, and therefore what types of activities would be aligned. So, I don't overdo it. Like, I'm not obsessive with it, but I like to do it for like a year and then each month to help kind of focus me on where my time and energy is best spent.
And what, like in a nutshell, I know it takes a lot longer than that, but Mercury, Mars, and Venus, what are they, the three, key activators? Like what can you learn by looking at them each month in all of your houses?
Yeah, so Mercury is the planet of communications. So I think when you're looking at where Mercury is, you're going to get a sense of which part of your life is needing that focus of communications. So if it's over your 7th house of partnership, it might be, okay, it's time to have some of those harder conversations with my partner or loved one. It could be falling over your 11th house of community, and then it might be more about those larger communities you're in, or your friendships. So that's what Mercury is kind of all about. Mercury rules a number of things, but it's predominantly communication, anything legal related, technology, which is why we tend to avoid launching in Mercury retrograde, because technology can go all funky. Venus, and again, I take very much a business perspective to astrology. So Venus can also be about love and relationships, but I look at it in terms of receptivity and magnetism. So in what part of our life is Venus bringing that kind of that allure and magnetism? And so we can wait for it to be hitting the points that are more related to business and money and that sort of thing. And then Mars is all about action taking and bravery. So we can look at that and get a sense of where taking action in our lives is going to be most suited, and where we might need to be brave during that period of time as well.
And I've got a good question for you, for a lot of people listening in. When we were doing a poll, people were curious to know what was going, like, is it possible that you're going to look at someone's blueprint of the year and go, well, you're possibly not going to have money in this time, or it's not going to be as free flowing in this time, and then later on there's going to be more abundance here, with life transits? And when you're looking at it as a huge print, is that something that is actually a thing, or is it one of these things where we will always be able to manifest what we are? It's just that there might be ebbs and flows with secular patterns. Like, can you talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a few ways to look at it. I've got a whole course on money and astrology. So there's absolutely ways to look at better times than others for money coming into your life. And there'll be definitely periods of time where you might have a difficult aspect and transit going on with Venus that might mean that money isn't going to flow as easily. Obviously, astrology is just one part of things, and it doesn't mean that you're going to have no money just because you're going through this, difficult transit. But I think it can sometimes just release you a little bit and just allow you to surrender a little bit more if you know that it's not the absolutely perfect time for things. I think for me, it's about getting that balance between understanding what's going on and the energies that are going on without letting it rule your life. I still sometimes launch during Mercury in retrograde. Like, sometimes it just can't be helped, but knowing that certain things are more likely to go wrong, I can prepare for that better. So I think it's awareness of the energies, and then going, okay, what do I need to do to, guard against the negative sides of whatever energies are going on.
And so what are the best energies to launch in? When people are looking at hosting events or launching certain products, what would you say the best energies around that?
It does vary depending on what someone's launching and the type of program. Generally, you want to avoid retrograde seasons. So retrograde season is when multiple planets are all retrograde at the same time, and it typically happens sort of in the middle part of the year, and it can go on for a number of months, and each year it goes on for a different period of time depending on how many planets are retrograding. So it's not ideal to be retrograding when they're all not ideal to be launching when they're retrograde. The particular ones you want to be looking out for are Mercury, as I've mentioned, but also Jupiter, Venus, Mars. So if Mars is retrograde, things are going to feel really like an uphill battle. It's going to feel like you're not getting anywhere. It's just going to feel a bit harder. If Venus is retrograde, it's going to be much harder to be receptive to abundance. So I wouldn't launch during Venus retrograde. Jupiter retrograde can have a similar impact, because Jupiter's all about luck and expansion and abundance. So, you know, I think avoiding times where some of those key planets are retrograding can be really helpful. Again, it's about looking at the moon cycles. I generally suggest launching between the new moon or just after the new moon to just after the full moon. And then each new moon and full moon is going to activate different parts of your chart. So it's about looking up and finding moon cycles where the energy of that moon cycle, the zodiac sign, is aligned with whatever you're launching. And then also it's activating suitable houses for a launch. You know, a moon cycle that's activating your house of home and family probably isn't going to be the ideal time to be launching. It's just not where the energy is at for you personally.
So the best moon cycle that's launching would be Jupiter.
No, it's not a moon cycle in Jupiter. So it's more if you were getting, for example, your second house was getting activated. That's around, I call the second house the entrepreneurial house, because it's all about our natural strengths and talents and how we create resources from them. And to me, that's what we do as entrepreneurs and solo business owners, is we take those natural talents and we make something out of them. So I always like to look for times where the second house is being activated. Also the 10th house of career and recognition is another good one. Again, it does depend on the thing you're launching. So if it's a one-on-one service, the 7th house might be okay, because that's all about one-on-one relationships. If it's a group program, the 11th house, which rules community, could be good. So again, it does depend on the specific thing that you're launching as to which times are going to be right. So I mean, I'd love to just be able to give blanket answers.
I know. And look, and we completely understand. This is it's a very personal thing, but this is so helpful, because I know a lot of people that do want to go deep with it will be needing to book a one-on-one session with you, but it's really powerful. And, you know, knowing that you've got all of those courses available, because at the end of the day, you do want people to be able to learn this for themselves, because they can't call you up every day of their life and be like, Kathryn, help me.
Much more empowering to actually learn astrology for yourself. Doesn't mean that you wouldn't ever consult a professional astrologer, but you know, I think it's just such a powerful tool to have in your toolkit that it's worth investing some time to learn it as well.
Wow. And since you've started using astrology in your life and in your business, what sort of changes and shifts have you seen happen, you know, personally and in your business and your personal relationships? Like, I'd love to just get the scope of, you know, how much it's impacted your life.
Well, I haven't had adrenal fatigue since, so I think that's a good indication. It's probably been about 6 years since I had adrenal fatigue now.
Wow.
Was a recurring issue at the time. So I think just living in a more feminine and cyclic way has been extremely good for my health. My husband will often say to me, "Did you see that coming? Was that in the chart?" You know, so it's kind of funny. You know, he's not fully on board with astrology, but I also think he knows there's something to it. I've been able to learn about my children through looking at their charts, and really, and again, it's this delicate balance. I don't want to be over influencing my children, going, "Oh, that's not in your chart, you can't do that," right? I don't want to do that. But it can help me know what some of the challenges are that they might face. It can help me understand their emotional temperament better. It can help me understand how to be a better mum to them, how they're so unique and individual and need different things. So, I mean, it's just had so many amazing benefits for me. You know, I feel a lot more aligned in the way that I work. You know, when things aren't going well, I think there's a sense of comfort that you can get from knowing there's a reason. It makes things feel less random, you know, in life and business. I was quite astonished at how quickly my astrology business took off and how much of a need and demand there is for business astrologers in particular, because I'm just booked all the time with astrology readings, which is beautiful. And I'm teaching a whole new era of astrologers through my certification program, which is amazing to be helping to put some other amazing business astrologers out in the world. So I mean, it's just been amazing for me.
Oh, I love it. I actually saw a quote this morning. It was, millionaires don't use astrology, but billionaires do. And I was like, it's so true because it is. It's something that's so powerful and it dictates everything. And
Yeah,
yeah,
surprised at behind the scenes how many very successful people would be consulting astrologers. You know, I've absolutely got multi-million-dollar clients that come to me for astrology readings. So yeah, it's an amazing tool.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Just had so much fun. I just want to keep talking to you all day long. It's incredible. Just before we let you go, just 3 rapid fire questions. So, the top 3 things you've learned on this entrepreneurial journey that would really help any woman listening in.
Oh my gosh. I think just understand that it's a journey. There's going to be ups and downs. I think I was lucky in that I did very well early on, but that in a way was unlucky because it gave me this false sense of security that it was always just going to be amazing and shiny. Look, it's a journey. There's going to be ups and downs. So, you know, understand that. I think, you know, it's just, I don't think there's these big, massive secrets. It's just persistence and, you know, just being in the arena and doing the work is really important. You know, most of my success has come from just blogging every week, sending a newsletter every week, you know, constantly putting myself out there and creating things and being willing to sell them. Like it's no big secret really, but you know, you've just got to keep being in there and doing the work really is the key.
Amazing. And you have a microphone, and every single person in the entire world, 7.5 billion people, can hear a message that you share. What do you say?
You know what? We just get this one life. Although, as an astrologer, I'd probably disagree with that and say that we have multiple lifetimes. But right now, in this body, in this consciousness, we've got this one life, and I don't think we should be wasting any time doing something that we don't love and we're not passionate about. So, I think you need to go out and work out what that thing is and do something worthwhile with your life because we don't know how long we've got and you don't want to be on your deathbed like feeling, you know, sorry that you stayed in a job that you hated or a relationship that was bad for you or, you know, a country you didn't like to live in. Just do something beautiful with this life that you've got.
Mm. And last but not least, your 20-year-old Kathryn, and you have a message that you can share yourself back then, knowing everything that you know now. What would you share? We're going doing some timeline therapy now.
Oh, I often say I wish I'd started a business earlier. Now, of course, technology wasn't, I'm 40 now, so 20 years ago, technology wasn't what it was now. But I think I'd just be saying to my 20-year-old self, you don't have to follow this traditional corporate pathway that you've kind of been told is what you do. Like, be creative, do what lights you up, and yeah, quit that job as soon as you can.
Amazing, amazing. I love it. And now we're going to put all of your details in the show notes and comments if you're watching on YouTube, but please let us know the best place that we can find you.
The best place to go to begin with is kathrynhocking.com. I actually have 3 kind of businesses. So I have kathrynhocking.com where I do my astrology readings. We have the Embodied Soul Astrology Academy where I do all of my astrology courses and training. And then I also have a business, Pisces Creative Co, where I do astro branding. So I use your astrology chart to create soul aligned branding over at Pisces Creative Co. So those are the places to find me, but probably kathrynhocking.com is the best place to start.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And soul aligned branding sounds incredible. If you guys have loved this episode, please screenshot it, tag Kathryn and myself on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you can find us. And thank you so much for being here, Kathryn. You're a phenomenal woman. I love all the work you're doing in the world and keep shining your light.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I really loved having this conversation with you and just want to say hi to all of your amazing community out there.
Thank you so much. Thank you.